So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's 7 p.m. in Poland. And yeah, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. I know someone from Australia said they'd try to be up at 3 a.m. for this talk, so thank you. Uh, do give me a 1 in the chat to let me know that I am coming through correctly, that the audio is good. Let me check. Yep, looks like we're happening. So yeah, thank you. And let me just disable that because that could get in the way. Okay, yeah, so we've got the Duza. Well, we've got the Duza dude. We have Vegetable Asbestos. Interesting name, man. Cool. He's Servant, Tony, Erkin. Welcome. Nice to see you again. Always good to see you. Yeah, we've got Bob Fisher. Okay, so tonight, my plan is to go for 1 hour. Eva, welcome. Thank you. Good to see you here. Right, so my plan is to go for 1 hour this evening. This once I finish all the slides, I'm nearly done with them. This should be about 75 to 80 slides. I expect there'll be 2, maybe 3 shows. The aim is to be very thorough and very specific. I'm not going to try to cover everything because I will do multiple different presentations on Hitler and the Nazis. This one is to look at Hitler's views on Christianity. So I'm not necessarily going to be discussing what he says about Islam or other topics. Do understand that. We're going to be looking definitively, I hope, at what Hitler says about Christianity. All right. Of course, for more interesting information on this, you can also look at Tick History, which did an interesting 2-part episode on Hitler's Gnostic leanings, right, on their religious Gnostic views in Nazism. And of course, the day after I discussed Hitler's Gnostic leanings, the very next day he released a video that talked about exactly that topic. All right, so welcome. Kejana Hamilton, we've got Dragon, welcome, great to see you. XYZ, welcome. False Doctrines, welcome. George K, Lepanto, excellent. Okay, guys, let's just dive into this. Okay, so I'm going to drop into the chat now, again, my full research archive link, right? So you guys can go access my archive that is here, and I do recommend, please, that you, let me get my mouse pointer up. So if you go to the Nazism folder here, you're going to find most of the material that I'm using here today. All right, so that is all available here. Okay, so most of what I'm using is inside my Nazism folder. It's very, very detailed, and you can find just about everything here. I also want to mention I'm going to drop this in the chat now as well. This is a link to my OneNote database. You can find extensive material here. Many of the details, many of the information, much of the information that I used in previous presentations, because people do ask me, it's available here. For instance, this is a summary of the Crusades, right? This is a much more detailed discussion of the Crusades. You can see it's quite long. If I go on the right-hand side, you can see this is a very detailed, lengthy discussion. I've used this in previous talks. This is a jihad timeline of numerous jihad attacks that happened against Christendom. Right, so people do ask me for this. Please go to those links, use the material. All right. This is not something we're going to discuss today, but I will be doing a talk on this in the future. This one is called Luther and Hitler, a linear connection between Martin Luther and Adolf Hitler's anti-Semitism with their nationalistic foundation. Today, we're not going to talk about the religious anti-Judaism that was present. We're going to talk about the racial, right? And then, of course, we need to also, this is something you would also find in my notes, the Nazi Aryanization of Christianity. This might be useful as well, and we will learn why as we go. Right. Okay, so let me get this going. Okay, I will try to keep an eye on the chat, obviously, to see who's been saying what. So do forgive me if I do miss the occasional thing, but with all the housekeeping out of the way, yeah, obviously I do tend to see the super chats. It actually is easy to see those because they pop up separately. All right, but guys, right, let's begin. So the question is, was Hitler a religious Christian? We're going to look at historical data, and we're going to compare that to the typical atheist and Islamic propaganda. Right, we all know how atheist Muslims try to imply that Hitler, Stalin, Marx, and so on were all devout Christians, and apparently they were acting out of Christian virtue. That's what made them so violent. We're going to be having a look at this to see how accurate these claims are. So Hitler says in various quotes, now I know Hitler does state, I am a Christian, I'm a Catholic, he does say this, and people do use these quotes. We're going to be looking at the context of all of that. Hitler's views on Christianity. I shall never come personally to terms with the Christian lie. The reason why the ancient world was so pure, light, and serene was that it knew nothing of the two great scourges, the pox and Christianity. Christianity is a prototype of Bolshevism, the mobilization by the Jew of the masses of slaves with the object of undermining society. Pure Christianity, the Christianity of the catacombs, is concerned with translating the Christian doctrine into facts. It leads quite simply to the annihilation of mankind. It is merely wholehearted Bolshevism under a tinsel of metaphysics. When he speaks of the Christianity of the catacombs, this is Christianity when it was persecuted under the Romans. Leave the hair-splitting to others, whether it is the Old Testament or the New, or simply the sayings of Jesus. It's all the same Jewish swindle. It will not make us free. A German church, a German Christianity is a distortion. One is either a German or a Christian. You cannot be both. Martin Bormann says in conversation with Hitler, so he's responding to a comment that Hitler has made, any doctrine which is anti-Christian must ipso facto be anti-Jewish as well. The National Socialist doctrine is therefore anti-Jewish in excelsis, for it is both anti-communist and anti-Christian. It was then that the future St. Paul distorted with diabolical cunning the Christian idea. The religion fabricated by Paul of Tarsus, which was later called Christianity, is nothing but the communism of today. He then says it is inconceivable that an educated priest should really believe all the nonsense that the church pours out. So I'm leading in with a handful of quotes by Hitler taken from various sources. We're going to be looking at his own written sources as well from Mein Kampf. We're going to be looking at other sources, at historical sources, and also, of course, the diaries of the people around him, the handwritten notes of the people around him, the letters of the people around him. And Joel Thomas, yes, that lame Paul theory again. Ask yourself, where did Hitler get that? Who started that idea in the 8th century? Let's see, it's a particular religion with a guy called, oh, good grief, he had a young wife, he had a 6-year-old wife, good grief, I can never remember the name. Understand, where did Hitler get that idea? And really, there's only one place where he got that. Right. Yes, Yaakov, all Gnostics, including Muslims, have a great hatred for St. Paul. Vegetable asbestos, that's very funny. Okay, right, let's continue. Baphomet, yes, Paulus. Right, now we're going to mention clerical fascism. Christianity in its pure state stirred the population to revolt. Rome was Bolshevized, and Bolshevism produced exactly the same results in Rome as later in Russia. In other words, Christianity destroyed Rome just the way Bolshevism under Lenin destroyed Russia, according to Hitler. I can imagine people being enthusiastic about the paradise of Muhammad. But as for the insipid paradise of the Christians, Christianity is an invention of sick brains. One could imagine nothing more senseless, nor any more indecent way of turning the idea of the Godhead into a mockery. A Negro with his tabus is crushingly superior to the human who seriously believes in transubstantiation. Before people jump on the bandwagon, Martin Luther believed in that. So let's continue. Now, clerical fascism refers to a political ideology that seeks to bring the church into cooperation with the fascist movement. Now, fascism, for our purposes here, is the integration of politics and state, government and state as one entity. So it's the merger of these two, private and public, so that the government controls everything. It involves individuals who, as both party members and individuals, take an active part in church life and seek to use the church to advance the goals of the fascist political movement. By this definition, Nazism had its clerical fascist wing. Now, the term does not and is not intended to describe the Nazi regime as a whole. We're specifically pointing at this context.